Good evening, everyone. Thursday night special edition of Getting Back to Zero. I am out in California, obviously taking care of my dad, as most of you know. Very tough week, but a unbelievable, miraculous week because of things I've never experienced sober. I'm actually living and not facing, but just experiencing emotions that I always ran from. So it's been a real interesting week, extremely hard for my dad, but I'm so damn proud of the gift that I'm giving him right now of being present for him, that this is actually given a bright silver lining to this cloud, if that makes any sense. But I wasn't gonna. Well, so you got to get your mind off of things. I went out shopping today. The only thing I found, nothing for the kids, nothing for Elizabeth, but Billy, my dog, is going to get a chew toy that I couldn't pass up. But I literally was going to just cancel the show, and I heard from our guest, and he had gone through, I think, almost very similar situations with his dad. I think it was 3 years ago, and it made me realize that I need to do this show tonight for me, mostly for me. But I also just want to tell people that I want people to know. I was going to tell you that all the miracles that are happening to me, and and all I can say is I don't think that's right to do. All I can say is I honestly believe if you work your program, sobriety brings you miracles. What those miracles are going to be completely your own. So to expect what mine are or someone else's or whatever, this is worth it. I'll just leave it at that. How I've handled this week, how I'm handling this week, how I've turned just hell into hell, but it's an okay. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I'm at a good spot, and I thank everyone for being there. But that being said, we, for some reason, we find a lot of Australians, and we found another one, Dan Turner from the western side of the States. That's about a 20-minute drive from the eastern side of Australia?
Not quite, Jeff.
Almost. That's to the airport for the 10-hour flight.
What, 3 days?
3 days. Incredible. Yeah, that place is huge. Well, we've got some friends in Brisbane, which I just said that for Lisa right now. She's throwing bricks at the computer, yelling at me for the pronunciation, but some neat people. I have to ask you a question. Is it just yes or no? I don't want your excuses. Do you live in a world where you and your family get dive bombed by aggressive attack birds when you're just walking down the streets?
Yes. Not so much. Hi, Jeff, and hi, everyone. Awesome to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
My head's shot to this week, so forgive me for not,
It is yes and no. A park next door, we regularly used to get swooped by magpies. They look like mini T-Rexes. They're quite aggressive. But we've befriended them. I've got 3 young kids, so we went and hand-fed them some mints, and they've got amazing face recognition. So they now know us and don't swoop us. So there are ways around it. It's not everywhere you go. It's only in spring. Only the males do it. Only 10% of the males do it. I know a bit about it because I've researched it, but they're normally a beautiful bird, beautiful song that they sing, and they'll swoop during their.
But when midnight hits, they transform into fangs and attack.
Only they have terrorized kids
on full moon nights. Yeah. Well, Dan, thanks so much for being here. I think just like early sobriety, distraction was a key part of my success. And with everything I'm having to deal with this week with my dad, I need to distract so I thank you so much for being here, because I need this. But why don't I want to hear, I know a little bit about your story. Go ahead and start from the beginning. Tell us about Dan and what got you on I know your whole life you were hoping to end up on a sobriety support show.
Absolutely.
Right? That was your dream.
Yeah, no, it's weird how it's all panned out. I feel this is kind of a bit of karma, Jeff, because my dad, yeah, he passed away. You mentioned earlier on Father's Day, 3 years ago now, and he was a big part of that. That was a bit of a turning point. So I'm almost excited for you. Obviously, my heart is with you as well. But to be able to process this sober is a real gift. Like I didn't. I was getting smashed in my pool with some friends, drinking over the top. And then I got a phone call. My brother was on a fishing trip with my dad and he had a heart attack right in front of him. The great thing was he was doing what he loved. He was on a fishing trip with his oldest son, my brother. I was going to go on that trip, but I went on the one the year before for the first time. He went every year, big drinking trip with his friends. And I just said, look, to my brother, we've got to go. Dad doesn't have long left. He was getting on. He had a stroke, but he got better. And we went on this trip, and I thought, geez, this is hard work for him. He was deep sea fishing.
Mm-hmm.
He was going hard. That was in his nature. He was a plastic surgeon, so he worked hard and played hard.
And looked really good.
Yeah, and looked great.
No, because of the plastic surgery.
Yeah. No, he would sew himself up and stuff like that on occasion, but he didn't actually get any work done. Not that I should have, but so I didn't go on the next trip because I thought I don't think that's a good idea. I didn't want him to go, but my brother did, and he unfortunately was there when Dad passed away. And I got the phone call. I was drunk. I was emotional. Didn't process it very well. But since then, and it was just shortly after that, I was able to get sober. It's a bit of a turning point because my dad, it's very strange, but I didn't want to disappoint him by going into AA or having sobriety. He always kind of brushed it under the carpet. He was of that era where drinking was very acceptable and it was seen as a sign of weakness to not drink. So I'd go through stints of not drinking, having dry periods. He wasn't very supportive of that at all. He'd try to get me to drink and say, what a load of nonsense, have a wine. So when he passed away, it was really like a green light for me to go really attack sobriety. And I did, and I haven't looked back. So it's coming up to 2.5 years. July 26th, it will be 2.5 years sober. And now I reflect on Dad. I've got a bit of a spiritual thing where I feel like he's a pelican. I'm at the beach here down on the coast in Perth, and my mum also passed when I was 10. I'll get to that in a bit. But when I see pelicans in pairs, I think it's mum and dad, and I feel like he really supports my sobriety now, and he understands it now that he's passed. And I've got a really good, rich place in my heart for him. I've got no regrets because I had my peace with Dad well before he passed away, and it sits really beautifully with me now. And he's kind of a big part of my sobriety spiritually, I feel.
It's interesting because I look back at the part I remember that I do have guilt about with Mom and Dad when I was playing football in college. When they would fly all the way across the country to see me, their son. Now I have kids, and I know what pride is about with children. They just wanted to be with me, and I would meet them after the game and eat as fast as I could, pay my dues so I could get out with the guys to the bar. So they're, their own kid. I just was like, I would have left the truck, the motor running in the truck if I could have, because alcohol was more important. And that beats me up. So the freedom, and it wasn't just this week. My dad and I have a good relationship, but being across country, you don't get to. I'm just so glad I got to spend this time with him like he deserves me to be. Yeah. And in return, I got the gift. But it's so freaking awesome to be able to give him that, because I didn't for so long. And those are pretty crappy memories.
Yep. Yeah. I think the gift for me, it's more like I'm breaking this cycle that has gone through our family for generations. And I didn't confront him with it. I didn't put that on him, but post his passing, I know it's the right thing and it feels good. And I feel in my heart that he knows it is too. So for me, it's kind of, it's a weird feeling that we never had that together face to face, but I feel like he knows that it's the right way.
It's another interesting point because you said you didn't want to disappoint your dad by not drinking.
Yeah.
And that's but you just look at your buddies maybe. I think you had told me you played rugby or Australian football, as you mistakenly call it. It's rugby, but that's okay. We'll work on that later. But just you with America, I drank because that's what you're supposed to do. You want to be in the club, and that was a benefit of it. And you did it. I did initially for others, but it's interesting you saying that, doing that for your dad, because that's a tough one. How do you handle, and to face that? Because I want this for myself, but I don't want to disappoint my father.
Yeah. And friends and drinking buddies. It's a big part of having sobriety is people mourn the loss of their drinking buddy or it's huge. You have to break those ties or change them somehow, replace them. And I mean, growing up in the 80s in Perth, WA, I know America's got a big drinking culture, but here it's off the charts. It's a badge of honor. It's a moving into adulthood, getting smashed. But I drank to get drunk right from the go-get. It was I mentioned my mum. She drowned when I was 10 years old. She was on a boat, a party boat, went out with dad, a whole group of people on a launch. They went out to see an American battleship, actually, like the Kitty Hawk or something like that back in the day. And she fell overboard. The music was loud. She would have been wearing high heels, drinking. She was a big drinker, just like my dad was. And so she drowned. She passed away. And not long after that, my dad remarried, and I remember getting drunk at his wedding and drinking to get drunk, and just this flick of a switch. But from that time on, I was drinking to get drunk at every occasion. I was drinking, and
do you know why?
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
because escaping, being someone you're not, freedom from pain. Do you know why you drank?
Yeah, all of those things. It was basically I was able to. Our family swept it under the carpet. I've already spoken about how we swept things under the carpet. There was a lot of stuff under that carpet. I went back to school the day after the police knocked on our door and told us they'd found her body. So it wasn't dealt with at all. And I found that when I drank, and as a family, whenever we get together and drank, we would discuss it, and the emotions would pour out, but in a very negative way, not in a real way. We'd deal with all the pain and the anguish drunk. We never did it sober. And that was our way of dealing with it. And so I would become I was a fairly happy drunk, I guess you'd say, but then there'd reach a point when I would start becoming really emotional and talk about these things. Next day, I wouldn't even remember or got nothing really out of it, just this unleashing of pain. But I'm one of those people who's always interested in the nature nurture side of alcoholism. I know it doesn't matter either way. It really doesn't. You just get sober. It doesn't matter what made you an alcoholic. But because I know it's in my family, I know my dad and my mum were both alcoholics. But then there was that trauma as well. So for me, it seemed like it was a double whammy. And then I grew up, as I was saying, in Perth, Western Australia. It's a huge culture of drinking. It was very easy for me to drink. I put myself in situations where I could drink without really anyone blinking an eyelid. Sport, I played rugby, different to AFL, Jeff, two different sports. But yeah, I played rugby and it became an entrenched part of my life, the training, drinking, playing, drinking. And like you were alluding to, I played rugby to drink at the end. I wasn't playing to play rugby.
Don't your Gatorade bottles have beer in them?
No, we didn't drink on the field, but
okay.
Straight after.
I'd heard
straight
that
after.
so far.
Possibly in some country towns.
Hey,
I know
all the running and you do with no gear on, you got to be drunk to play that game.
Yeah, it's a pretty hectic game, definitely. Yeah.
And you still have your front teeth.
Yeah, still got them. Yeah, I was lucky. I was a skinny little back, so I could pass the ball and tackle, but I didn't have to get in.
How did we hear so many? We have a lot of women on this thing, and you hear about the wine moms, and the 2 o'clock club that they get the kids down, and then everyone drink their wine.
Yep.
And I always wonder, are you accepted if you're a mom that doesn't drink wine in that group? And I think there's probably some that will say no.
No, absolutely.
With the rugby that you played, would you have been accepted on the team as a non-drinker?
I think my team, because it was a great team and we all went through for many years together. But if you're breaking into a new team, I was just lucky. I was with a lot of my best friends, and just they would have, but it would have been very questioned. And once I got a reputation as a drinker, it was expected of me. It was my thing. Like, I was the heavy drinker. That was kind of what I held on to. Like, I could drink people under the table.
Mm-hmm.
So it was important to me. Sadly,
had
and
pride.
Then it became,
and then
it just became sad.
You had pride in it.
Yeah, I was proud. I was proud of being this big drinking guy who could still get up and play the game, and we all drank. But yeah, people. Now I look back, one thing I noticed is that people weren't getting smashed like I was. I always thought they were, but no one really was. And I'd jump from drinking partner to drinking partner, and they'd fall by the wayside. But it was always me at the end. That was the standard. And that's something that really gets me when I'm like out and about now. I notice that people aren't drinking like I used to, and I notice them when they are. It's like I feel for them, because you stand out. You don't realize that you do. But as big as we do have a drinking culture here, I was the one smashed at the end of the night.
So where did after you obviously got married and the family started. Where did your drinking go with that? And again, I'm looking for the word progression, because because to me now I can look back and see it, but at the time it's like watching the grass grow. I don't notice it if I stare at it all day. Come back in a week and it's very long. But you don't notice it if you're looking at it, and that's how my drinking was with me.
Yeah, having reflected on it, it was becoming really sad. And the whole badge of honor, pride thing just quickly, after my sort of 20s, it just became sad. And I knew it for years that this was a massive problem. It was affecting my jobs, my relationships. It was just holding me back big time, and it was looking really sad. Somehow I managed to maintain, I was a pretty high functioning alcoholic, and I got myself jobs. I became a teacher and went into the country and taught, where drinking again was highly accepted, even amongst the teachers and nurses and the itinerant staff, if you like. It was part of the culture. My wife wasn't a huge drinker, but she, but she was very aware that it was a problem early on. And actually, when I proposed to her, I said, like, if I try to be the best I can be, will you marry me? And she'd often quote that back to me, because I wasn't being the best I could be. And it's only now that I can actually with pride say I am. For years I kind of carried that in my heart, that I'm not living up to my engagement promise that I made my wife. Then the kids came along, and I was becoming a very lonely drunk. Like, it's a very common story. I'm not at the bars. I'm not out and about. I'm on my couch with a wine or a scotch, watching Ray Donovan and drinking with Ray, thinking, oh yeah, this is good. And then I'd black out, and I wouldn't remember watching Ray Donovan the next day. I'd have to try to watch it again, because I can't remember what happened. So it was really depressing. I was taking, alcohol in my coffee cup to my son's football games. In my pram that I was pushing, I'd have a wine in a coffee mug sort of thing. Taking them to the park so I could get away from my wife, so I could drink. I'd be doing the old switcheroo with the wine bottles, pretending I was drinking one bottle, but I was actually having two. All the tricks that we know about, hiding my drinks in vases, and awful and exhausting. Like, it was so tiring. Just trying to work out how to drink, how to get drunk. I was, drinking warm.
People ask me, is sobriety hard? And I say, hard. It's relaxing compared to what the work I had to do. I mean, sure, there's things that are definitely hard about it, but man, juggling that was incredible.
and just the guilt and remorse that you have as well, like getting the exhaustion of getting drunk and maintaining it, and keeping it secret, thinking you are, and then all the guilt, knowing that what you're doing is so low level and awful. And I beat myself up.
Did your any because no one I mean, I still get people going, "Hey Jeff, I knew you were a big beer drinker, but I never knew you had a problem." Well, I
Yeah,
was that good at hiding it, but I was like you, I was isolating more and more. And you said the isolation when I went to I don't know, this is 18 years ago, 15 years ago. I went to an AA with a friend and I knew where I was, but not at the time. I wasn't ready. But I talking to a gal afterwards and I said, I know I drink probably too much beer, but I don't do it. I don't cheat on my wife. I don't go out to the bars. I come home and
yeah,
I play with the kids and then I go sit in the garage and drink and watch TV and just drink my beer. I'm not cheating
yeah,
on her. And the gal said, well, you know what you are? Your mistress is that TV in the garage.
yeah,
And it was like, yeah, I wasn't, but I wasn't there. I was physically in the garage, but I wasn't there for my wife or kids.
yeah,
I might as well have been at the bar. And that hit home. That was one of those smacks to the face.
yeah. And
I
I
hate
think
to get.
we kid ourselves that we're doing all right because we're holding down a job, or we're not divorced, or we haven't lost our car, or we haven't been caught by the cops.
Right.
We kid ourselves that it's okay then, just because you haven't hit that sort of low. But yeah, you're right. What sort
But
of life
other
you're living?
people are doing fine and they're drinking like I am is
Yeah.
one justification. Or for me, it's a guy down the street. You think I'm bad. You should be,
Mm,
you're lucky you're not married to so and so.
yeah.
I'm not that. So therefore I'm good. So I'll just keep drinking.
Yeah. And the flip side of that, I think, is I never got pulled up by anyone, including my father or my family, for my drinking, which is kind of amazing. But I think, and not so much my family, but my friends, people who I drank with, they always like having someone who is that guy down the street, that's a lower rung there.
Mm-hmm.
It makes everyone else feel a bit safer to have that sort of, oh, well,
Yeah.
at least I'm not Dan, he's the one with the problem, not me. Maybe they're next in line. So in Australian society, we seem to sort of prop that up, and we like having the friend that gets more smashed than we do, which is a really horrible thing. I think that we've got to look at is that we encourage this sort of people and make fun of them and mock them and belittle them, but then invite them out and enable them again to get smashed along with us.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get ostracized when they stop drinking a lot of the time, which is really
What
sad.
what was your moment that
Yeah, I talked about my mum's death. So for years, I thought if I can get over this pain of my mum passing, I will fix my drinking. That'll be fixed. So I went to this course in Queensland, in Brisbane,
there you go.
called Real Man, and I dealt with this trauma that a lot of anger I had towards my mother that I didn't realize. I was angry that she was so careless, basically. So it was all men. We had this huge sort of tribe. We were there for 4 days, and beating drums and talking about our emotions. And I left that feeling really light and happy, and I dealt with it. So I went back and I thought, okay, I can give drinking a go now. I think I might have it. And within 2 days, I had one of the worst benders I've ever had. And I remember going to the park with my baby daughter in the pram. My wife drove in. I snuck out with the pram, pretending I was going to the park, drinking wine. And I just thought, I texted her while I was at the park and said, I'm done. This is not working. And it's then that I realized, okay, well, and on this course, it said you need a tribe to talk about these things with you. And I was thinking, well, no one knows. None of those guys actually know about alcohol and alcoholism. So I thought, well, who can I talk to? And then it was like, ding, there's a place called AA where you can actually listen and talk. So I went in the very next day for my first meeting. It was actually my second meeting. My first time I did it was in my 20s, and I had a really bad experience. It was a miserable place, and everyone was talking. Their drinking stories were different. It was a bit heavier than mine. I think I just got them on a bad night. But this time I went in, bright, light, welcomed in the door, given the big book, and read the doctor's story. And I don't go anymore, but I really enjoyed it as a therapy, listening to people who had exactly the same sort of stories as me, sharing mine, getting mine off my chest. For me, that was huge. Just getting that, the talking and sharing and reading some of the articles. To me, the science behind it was really important. And it just was a light bulb that went off and said, you know what, you're an alcoholic, that you can't drink. And once I'd accepted that I couldn't do it, it was okay. I'm a stubborn person. I'm pretty strong-willed. I've got this. I'm not drinking again. It's just this stupid liquid in a bottle. I can do it. And I accepted that there was no curing it.
Okay, I was going to ask you a question as a joke, but now it suddenly is a little more serious question.
I love a joke.
Well, I was going to say, you said you don't go to AA anymore, and I was going to say as a joke because I know the answer. Oh, so you got this and you're cured?
Yeah,
and
no.
The answer is obviously no. But then you started saying about now I learned and I no longer crave it anymore. So now the question has a little more of a serious context. You no longer crave it. So are you done with this thing? And I'm not mocking you. I'm just
no. That's
I'm
a good
being
question.
serious.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I shouldn't have said I'm done with it because I'm not. I've got a really good 2 groups I go to. And the fact that I know that they're there is really, really important to me. It's a massive backstop, if you like. And, you know, I know that they're doing awesome work in there. I kind of went my own way and did my own podcast and got a lot of stuff. And I'm on websites, and I've found a different way to keep engaged and help people. I find now I'm looking more at trying to help others in sobriety, and that's helping me heaps. The steps, I don't know. I kind of got a bit caught up. I didn't, you know, my sponsor left and had a few issues, and I got really stuck on it and felt like I was a bad AA person. I wasn't doing the steps right, and that just wasn't working for me. So I just thought, you know, the thing I got out of it was the talking. And then, to be brutally honest, I got really sick of telling my story and hearing the same 6 people's story.
That's why that's why you charged me $25 for this tonight.
That's right. Yeah.
Paid in advance.
I'm definitely not done with it in an answer. It's there for me. I went back. I always go back to get my chips. They're important to me. I'm an accumulator, like a stubborn person. I love those chips. And they really drove me in the beginning. They were really important, and they kept me on track. And I really enjoy the people in there. Christmas Eve, I was down in a place called Margaret River last year, and I just went to a meeting out of the blue because I was feeling it's Christmas Eve. I don't know about in America, but Christmas Eve's a big drinking night in Australia.
Yep.
So I went in, and that was really good. So to know that that's available anywhere in the world is really special. And yeah, I'm not an AA member anymore. That's not true. It's just I don't feel like I need to go twice a week. And I kind of felt a bit of pressure from, you know, you get those people in AA who really push that. You got to do this, you got to do that, you got to get this, you got to get that, you know, 90 meetings in 90 days. I'm like, whoa. That's, you know, I've got a life.
I being an ex-offensive lineman, which is the largest guys on the field that were known to eat. I've spent a lot of time in buffets in my day. And I look at my sobriety. My suggestion is treat sobriety as a buffet. You pick and choose what you want to put on your plate and grab it and leave what you don't like and create your own plate of recovery. Some of it, I got a little A on the plate. I got a little of whatever. I grab something from you. My plate is what satisfies me.
Yeah.
And that's my advice to people. You don't have to do everything. I pick and choose. And people that don't like it, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is my road.
And I think that's how their program was originally developed in that way. I think that's what it was meant to do. Like whatever gets you sober is the right way, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's people, and I don't want to get, this isn't an AA meeting, but people get caught up on what you have to do. And the thing even says, it says, this is what is suggested.
Yeah.
And even that word, it's like, okay, no one says any of this is mandated. Even in their their book says, this is what we suggest.
Yeah.
Give it a shot.
Yep.
So, but
yeah. So for me, just taking what I needed, like you say.
I know what I was going to ask you. You said you don't like to hear, you got tired of hearing your story or telling your story.
Yeah. I tried to mix it up. quite a lot.
No. It's not that. But my thing is, I'm scared. I hate certain memories. I hate them, but I pray to God I never forget them. So and I think I know what you meant, but I need to hear my story. I need to be reminded of my story. Sometimes it's when I hear your story, it'll remind me. I don't have to tell my story to hear it, but I can't forget my story.
No, definitely not. No, and I mean, I'll sometimes listen back to my own podcast and hear my stories, because I purposely laid out quite a few of my debacles in that podcast. So it's kind of for me to go back and go, man, if you're getting too cocky, just remember this. And my friends, I've got some really close, like a couple of friends who are very supportive, and we reflect on some of my idiotic things that I did. And my wife's, we talk about it all the time. I own it, and it kind of makes me proud how the difference. I don't forget those things. No. And life constantly reminds me.
What held you back from sobriety? And I'm going to throw out, because labels are a big one. The A word is huge.
Yeah.
God is something. I think for me, it was fear of what sobriety meant. But what held you back?
So initially it was family, because I feel like maybe I'm the worst drinker in my family, but we're all bad or good at drinking. So it was that whole thing I spoke about, like bringing shame to the family and saying, hey guys, there's a problem here. Someone's got to do something. But then, I've got some really good feedback from my family. My brother said, like, I'm his hero. And my sister the other day came out and said she's so proud of me on Christmas. And so, that filled me full of pride. But initially that was a sticking point. The God thing was, I'm a science-based guy, but it's amazing. Like I was talking about the pelicans, I've found a lot of spirituality in nature. Nature's something that has really helped me replace a lot of the drinking. I find a lot of power from nature. So that was a bit of going into AA, particularly the God thing. As soon as I said of your own understanding, I was like, okay, well, that's a higher power of, for me, it's what I see in nature. The idea of spirits being, carried on the wings of a pelican and that sort of thing. So that was okay. The big one was that, is it curable?
It could be that your mom and dad are riding the magpies and attacking you because they're just picked at you for one reason. So they could be the magpies, not the pelicans.
Yeah, maybe they mix and match depending on what I'm up to. Yeah, I deserve a good swooping every now and then. And that's something that's interesting, isn't it? When you do, because when I got on this road of sobriety, I was, everything was going great, but then, I had a slip up and I did something stupid. And then I was unable to blame alcohol. It was like, oh, this is actually my real mistake. And yeah, it's quite interesting, like dealing with emotions and things and mistakes when you're sober, because it's a whole different kettle of fish. But you can certainly process it a lot better.
Did you fear sobriety?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think, like a lot of people, I totally mourned the idea of not having my little buddy alcohol, whatever form that came in, like the scotch, drinking with watching AFL footy, and going out. I still drive past a Friday afternoon at a bar and see two blokes going in with that buzz of energy. I still look at that and miss it. But then I remind myself, man, you've had a lot of those times. That's okay. You can let that go now. So I feared
you're skipping a huge point, because I'm still staring at those guys.
Yeah,
the blokes. But that's a tough one for me, and it's getting easier and easier.
Yeah,
but,
it does.
But I'm not going. I don't say I had enough of those. I say, you know what? I could have one more.
Yeah.
One more of those, but I'm not going to have a bunch. I've had too many, but I can have one more. That's what the voice throws at me.
Yeah. Checking into a hotel the other day, we went and checked into a hotel in the city, and it's champagne on arrival or a beer, enjoying the view on the balcony. That's what you do. So it's a matter of me. I'm really well prepared with non-alcoholic drinks. I always have like a really nice iced coffee, or I think some people, when they go sober, they really beat themselves up and go onto old Larry water. And, I treat myself, make sure I've got a cold esky full of really nice drinks to get through that, because that's what I miss. And that was the fear that I would just be socially inept in this. Like, it's like being an Eskimo allergic to water in WA if you're not a drinker. That's what I thought. It's going to be really hard to fit in anywhere. But I found really quickly that it's not the case. And as long as
if you went back in time, I mean, you succeeded, but if you went back in time to your day one, what tools would you give yourself? What tools didn't you have, or what tools would you, looking back, say worked, or the ones that were the key for your success?
Ironically, just that simple thing of having a good selection of non-alcoholic drinks on hand, because it's those moments where you just really crave and think, this is awkward. I've got friends coming around. I'm doing a barbecue. I need a beer. That for me would be the moment where I'd slip up. So having like a really nice San Pellegrino soda drink, or an iced coffee, or a Red Bull, or a Coke, whatever it is, just to go, you know what? Shh, pour it, have it over ice. That it just takes the anxiety away for me. And then before you know it, no one's even said anything. Sometimes at a party, they're jealous of your drinks because they're, 3 beers in. It's like, sick of beer, but you're pulling out these exotic, non-alcoholic beverages. I've really embraced being prepared and having good food, good drinks, not making myself miss out. I don't want to feel like I've missed out on anything. And that's worked. That's been really good. Day one, I think for me on day one, I was ready. I accepted that I couldn't drink again. That was a huge one. Never thinking, I'll give it a go. I'll give it 6 months. I'll try just having a beer a day. I'd done all that. I'd done all my tryings and failings well before I walked into AA 2.5 years ago. And that's why I see people who are like slip up and drink again. And it's like, well, don't give up, because I did that. I've had a really good run now, but I did all that trying everything. But it was when I truly accepted that I was an alcoholic and accepted that term.
Well, I hope that things would work for me. It was when I finally said, I got to work whatever it is.
Yeah.
I got to put, I make the joke about the Peloton that I have sitting over there. Nothing's changed. I bought it and I'm in no better shape than I was. It just sits there. It doesn't work. Well, you get your ass over on the thing and start pedaling, and maybe it will. Whoa. Yeah. I paid way too much money.
Yeah.
No, I thought it's supposed to do it. That's the same thing with sobriety. But you had one of the things when I first found you, there was one word that you said that really struck. I got to get this guy. You said the word replace or replacement, one of the two. And it was, and I'll let you fill in from here, but what it hit for me was because, okay, I got a drinking problem. I got to quit drinking. So night one, I got rid of the booze. And then I sat there and went, now what?
Yeah.
Because I got rid of something, but now there's just a big hole and I'm sitting there waiting. And it didn't work. So you mentioned replacement or replace and the necessity of it. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, it's huge. I think a lot of people, we call it white knuckling, and you just kind of get rid of the booze and you sit at home and you just build days. And, building days, I think, is important. And if you're a stubborn person, and a lot of alcoholics are, that works. You build days and it gets more and more important not to drink. But yeah, you have to replace those moments. So we've got cricket. I don't know if you know cricket in Australia. We have cricket. It's a world game, but
I don't have a clue what it works. It makes zero sense, but it's huge.
It's like baseball, but you don't have 3 pitches. You've got as many as you want, and you can take as long as you want. And some people go out to bat and they just survive. They just don't let the ball hit the wickets, which is the stumps behind. If they get hit, you're out. And they just block, and it's very boring. And eventually there's a ball with their name on it, and they get out and they've got like no runs. Others go out there and they attack. They go, okay, I'm here to score. And they go on the drive and they try to score runs. And I think you can either just hang in there, or you can get out and attack life and try to score runs. So you can't sit back, in my opinion, and just build days. You've got to go, okay, I'm not going to hide here. I'm going to get out. I'm going to find groups that will accept me. I'm going to, buy a kayak and get out in the ocean. I'm going to do bushwalking. I'm going to do exercise. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to do a podcast, stuff that really fills those holes.
I was talking with a friend about this and about they were going on a trip, and you hear people say, "Be careful." Well, be careful means don't get hurt. So sit and don't do anything. You're not living that way. You're not experiencing. You're not growing. You're just surviving.
Yeah.
So the be careful. Just sit and don't drink and hide from it. Isn't you got to live? You got. I agree. I love what you said because I gotta choose. I gotta aggressively go after something to fill that with.
Yeah.
And
you got to make it just like I pack the non-alcoholic drinks. I'm always thinking, okay, I need this. I need to get out on the water. I need to go and enjoy a sunset, whatever it is. And you're in a place where you can really, really enjoy it without the alcohol. And it's amazing. Unfortunately, so many places and events in WA are alcohol related, and it really annoys me. It's like, why are christenings of babies to do with alcohol? Why is a 4-year-old party alcohol related? So, but you can go along and just
I just see taking that void is being careful, and being careful in sobriety is being careful not to go around any alcohol, not to go around anyone that could be, not to. And there is a time when we got to just hunker down and weather the storm. But I can't. I'm never going to become something I'm not. Become a sober person. I could hide from being an alcoholic or whatever. I know people hate that word, but I can hide from my problem, or I can roll the dice a little bit and try and live and fill it and add with support, with people that get it, with people that are going to be there for me, that I can call in a second and say, hey, I'm out on a wire and the wind's blowing. I need your help. And maybe I won't go out on that wire without knowing that I got people ready for me if I need them. Yeah. Because when I've counted on myself, I fail. But I just love that replace. It just because I know what it hit with me, because I've said this before. I thought of sobriety was a red light. It meant stop, end, over, done. It's over. You're come to a stop.
Yeah.
Maybe sobriety is a red light at day one. But after that, I want it to be a green light.
Yeah, and that's what I enjoyed a lot of your posts that you send. You out in doing stuff, like you're busy. I can see you've got a really good life now with your wife and kids. You're out and about doing stuff. You haven't let it stop you, and I think that's really important. One of the first big challenges I had early in sobriety was my sister's 50th. Like I was always going to go, but they laid on the booze. It was really top-notch alcohol, free on arrival. So I treated it like a game of rugby. I was like, this is coming up. I'm going to be prepared. I'm going to be ready. I'm going to have my out. I'm going to be able to get out of there if I need to with support of my wife. And in the end, I built it up so much. I was really anxious on the way there. I was grumpy, but it was a breeze in the end. It was a breeze, but I was prepared for it.
I'm going back to I like this analogy, and I'm such a sucker for analogies. So I apologize everyone, because you'll probably hear this one again. But the type wire walker just made sense to me. You go out there when the conditions are good for you to try that. You don't go out on a windy day. And when you got a 50th birthday party that's covered with beer, that's maybe when I say, you know what, I'm not going out. I'm not walking the wire today.
Exactly.
Or I'm gonna crawl the wire with a bunch of people holding on to me and safety nets below me.
Yeah. And you've got the right to pass. Like you have to have that in your head that you can say no to anything, any event like that. It's sobriety comes first. And if you
had understand and I'm dying to see this thing. But you've got a series you did. I think it was like 12 podcasts, or what is it that I've heard a lot of people say you got to listen to this.
Yeah,
it's free, but if you want to send me $20, and then I'll just give you. Of course, you can find it for free, but if you want to, no. Tell me about what you're doing and how do we find this? Because I've got some time and I'm dying to hear this.
Yeah, so this was early in my sobriety. I just thought, well, I wish I'd done it earlier, to be honest. But it was probably about maybe 6 months to a year in, and I just documented how I was feeling, what was happening, some tips and hints and tricks and stories of drinking and getting over the drinking. So I just did 12 20-minute to 30-minute episodes on my podcast called Addict in the Attic. It's where I am now. I'm in my attic in my house. It's where I do my podcasting. So just sort of documents my travels through that early stage of sobriety, what worked for me, what didn't. And so that was series 1, Addict in the Attic. I'm looking to do series 2 where I'll just do some interviews.
So if we're looking for it, where do we go? Google Podcasts or
Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple, all of them. You'll find it.
Just put
in
Addicts in the Attic.
Yep, that's it.
That's fantastic. What have you learned in these last couple of years that you didn't expect to learn?
That's a good question. I've learned that I probably had more to offer to this world, unfortunately, and I dulled it down for 30 years, probably 35. I've just learned that humans are powerful things, and unfortunately, dousing them in alcohol isn't a good idea. I've learned that it's a beautiful place out there, and a lot of people are supportive. I've learned that you don't need alcohol to get out and have a good time, to socialize. I've learned most of all, I think I've learned that I'm a really good person sober, and I don't need that social lubricant. I can be quiet. I've been told since that I'm a quiet achiever, and I don't have to be that loud one. I just go about my business, and I still have the same power, probably more powerful now, in a more quiet way, and I don't have to have the regrets and the blackouts and all the rest that goes with it. So I think that I've learned to accept that I'm okay sober. That's the big one, and just being proud of what I'm doing.
I think for me, it's just this week's a perfect example. Something that I would have run from, the fear of what I had to face this week. I would have loaded up my backpack with alcohol because that would have gotten me through. And the fear of that I got to face all this crap with just me to defend myself. I didn't want to face it, and now I'm like on a proud of myself, just that I have, and that it's that I've done it, and I've used tools that I've learned, and I've used you, and I've used I've used my group, and I've talked about it. I got it out of here and got it out, and it can't if I can get it out, it can't do me damage.
No, that's right, and that's such a big part of not just alcoholism. It's everyone. Like, I've worked, as I said, with men's groups. It's people bottle stuff up, and I think sobriety it opens up communication and talking, and of course that's key to getting over a lot of stuff. And so it's taught me how to open up as well, which is an aside skill and healing process. It's just so important. And as people with the same problem, we chat and we talk and we share. It's an amazing group that I met you on, that just support each other. There's a lot of nastiness out on the internet, and there's just none of it there. It's just and the same with the groups I've been involved in AA, just wholesome support, no ulterior motives. It's just all communication, opening up and healing, which is massive.
You had one relapse?
No, not since. No, not really. I wouldn't say none since I went into AA. Just before AA, I'd try. I didn't really ever say I'm going to quit. I said I'm going to have a break, and I had a year off. but I'd go into other stuff, and it was never really sobriety. So no relapses, and I'm feeling strong and good about it. Yeah, but as I
What
said,
are the things you've worked on besides, because quitting taking the alcohol away is just like the drop in the, yeah, that's step one.
yeah,
But that's holding your breath without finding a source for oxygen. I can only hold it for so long.
yeah,
So I can hold my breath for a bit, but I gotta fix what's holding me underwater, I guess. What were the keys to you being able to breathe through this thing and not have to hold your breath?
yeah. I think working on sort of being less selfish, giving a bit more of myself, I think. And I've still got a long way to go with that. Like I still find myself isolating. That's been hard. Like I've got rid of the alcohol, but I'll still be up podcasting or doing something else, that watching TV, watching sport. So I've still got a lot to work on in that regard. But yeah, family's really been key, but also just knowing that I had to try to be the best version of myself kept me going, really, knowing that I would become that with time, and removing all those layers of alcohol, I could start actually working on me. For so long, it was the obvious big elephant in the room problem was the drinking. Now that that's gone, I can start, unpacking some of the other stuff, the selfishness, the, irritability,
Mm-hmm.
some of my anxieties. I can actually work on those for real now without blaming the alcohol or,
Perfect. I mean, that's
it's gone.
exactly it. That's exactly it. They can work on it without putting the blame on that.
Yeah.
I don't know even know the steps I took or what, but it was when I started to figure out how to give myself some self-worth, because I didn't deserve I deserved to be dry and miserable.
Yeah.
I didn't deserve to be sober and happy. So I had to somehow develop that I was worth. And maybe you know what? I think that came from my support group, because I didn't believe I was worthy, but they did. And maybe
Yeah.
at some point I just said, I don't believe you, but I'm going to trust you. And I think you're wrong, but what the hell?
Yeah.
It's not, nothing else is working. So I'll try it your way, or I'll try to pretend like I believe you. And then it started the ball rolling in the right direction.
Yeah. I found that too. I thought that I was just an idiot who couldn't handle his booze. And I was one of few that was just completely stupid and doing idiotic things and risking everything. And then I went into groups and realized that there was stacks of me, and it's not just me, and I shouldn't be ashamed. And also the doctor's opinion that I read was just like a light bulb of like, wow, okay, this could be a disease. And I've been beating myself up for so long. And it's really not my fault. I just haven't
I
been
still
able to.
struggle with it. You always hear the term "play the tape out," play it forward, and
Yeah.
my mind offers up the happy memories of drinking. Just boom! I mean, it throws them at me. I got to
Yeah.
dig and find and uncover to find, to get the negatives. I got to work for those. And then I was thinking, this thing is screwing me, because even like exercise, I
Yeah.
get out and do this for an hour, and I'm like, I feel so good.
Mm.
I want this feeling. And tomorrow morning, I don't remember the good. All I remember is I'm looking at that Peloton going, oh my God, that looks painful. I don't want to do it. So my
Yeah.
mind it offers up what I don't want it to offer up. So I'm battling that all the time.
Yeah.
But like being out in California, I was up just cruising up in the Sierras and looking at the snow, and it's just gorgeous. It's just beautiful. And skiing. I was talking with a buddy about skiing and how we always drank, and they said, "Well, yeah, but play the tape. What happened on the way home?" Well, no, at that age, I was young enough. Bad stuff didn't happen. So now
Yeah.
I'm having trouble remembering there wasn't bad stuff when I was in my 20s or 30s skiing. I mean, not the bad stuff like I do now. So that's a skill to get past because drinking gave me a hell of a lot of smiles.
Yeah.
And it's, that's the memories. I looking around this house, my dad's house, there's no memories of, there's no pictures of the dog taking a dump on the rug. The pictures are
Exactly.
all the dog happy and running around. They're all, it's not of me getting, bad grades or whatever. It's of me succeeding. This house offers up happy memories, and my brain does the same thing to me. So I got to go, whoa, there's more. Let's dig down that, so that's a skill that I'm getting better at, but remembering the crap doesn't come as easy as the good for me.
I totally agree with that. And yeah, your head just screws with you, doesn't it? Like my wife remembers my little dog, all the bad things. I remember all the good stuff. That dog was a champion. He's gone now.
Yeah.
She's like, reminds me of all the stuff you're mentioning. But yeah, and I think they're there. Those bad memories are definitely there. And that's what I use my podcast for. I go back and listen to those bad stories.
Well, that's the podcast or my story. And it's not that I listen to my story, but it's talking to people about our stories and the importance of not just focusing. I can't just focus on, hey, just tell me all the good news, Dan, about your, I gotta be reminded of where I came from, and I need to hear that from you. So that's,
and I think it's also building all these positive experiences, like not hiding and being careful, but getting out and having really good Christmases sober. Like my last 2 Christmases have been the best since I was 10 years old. And I draw on that. I'm like, well, that was an amazing summer where you just did all this stuff with your kids and you remember everything. There was no embarrassing moments. So building that, playing the tape forward and building good stuff as well. And your brain can go to that and go, okay, well, actually, we're doing pretty well. I'm having a lot of fun. And that comes, it's hard to start with, but it gets easier, doesn't it?
So your last question, your advice for the new person that is putting it down tonight for the first time, and this first week is like, how the hell do you get through those first few days?
Yeah. Well, for me, I would get in and talk to people, whether it's on Facebook, share your story, listen to your story, listen to other stories that are like yours. Be prepared. Have non-alcoholic drinks at the ready. Don't do the things you normally do with alcohol. If you have to miss a football game or not watch a certain show, Sex in the City, you always have a wine with it or something, or that mother's group. Just, you've got to be prepared to break those and replace them.
No one says you're stupid to say in your first night, still go to the bar and sit at the bar with your buddies, but just don't drink. Why you don't put yourself in that situation? That's impossible.
That's right.
And yet we come home and sit on the couch in the same position in front of the TV and wonder why we're struggling, why we're craving to go get a beer so much. Well, it is a little bit of the same thing. Change your route, change your location. I got to give my environment, my head a different environment, my eyes a different environment.
Yeah.
And then long term is to create new habits, which doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, that's right.
And develop new mental muscle memory, I guess.
Yep, absolutely. For a while I was watching my football games, sculling water, like I was drinking a ridiculous amount of water. And then I had my nice drinks that I'd have. And now I just don't have anything. I just enjoy the game. You get there, you change. It changes over time. We're very, Pavlovian creatures. We can change our habits. We're simple primates, really. We can do it. We can retrain our brains really quite effectively. But you've got to be onto it. You've got to be aware of it and know where those places are around your house. No, as you say, not just the bar. That's the obvious one. But there's spots in your home, times in the day that are big triggers, and you've got to be aware and ready.
Well, I'm gonna stay on the thing, but do you want me to talk about my wire rope, tightrope walking analogy again?
Absolutely, I love it. Love it. Get out in the wind. No, clear days. Yeah. I love a good analogy.
People are going, oh crap, we're going to see his stupid drawings and he's going to be talking about this, the Wallendas or whatever they are that walk the wire all week. So I'm just going to blame Dan.
Yeah.
right,
I
buddy.
brought in
Look,
that cricket analogy. That was my fault.
no, that was well. I know a hell of a lot more about the game than I did before. You did.
Yeah.
Well, if you could just explain being offsides in soccer, because I have no clue what that one is. But
yeah.
all right, well, look, stay on, and you will be back. Too bad you got no options now because
my pleasure.
Just gold, fantastic, and thanks so much. This is what I needed this week. I needed this big time. So thank you for being here for me. And I don't know. I'm shooting for Saturday morning. I don't have a plan yet, but may or may not. Maybe just check in. Like I said, this week's been rough, and I'll fill people in, not right now, but what's going on. But I'm so freaking glad to be here. And there was a lot of people here that got me. A lot of people on here that got me here and got me in the right. And it's worked. So, anyways, hang in there, and we will talk soon, buddy. Take care.
Thanks,
Thank you
Jeff.
so much, Dan. See ya.
Awesome.